of the EAC. I circulated the minutes from last time. Did anybody have any concerns or questions or edits? Do I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? All right, the minutes are approved. Any announcements? I don't have anything this time around. Nope. Okay, it's a quiet month. Why don't we jump right to the green team? Any updates from you, Sarah?
Yeah, we've completed our RFP, and per Radnor's policy, the RFP's been put out on pen bid. We're the only Ready for 100 group who uses pen bid. The others were able to choose the possible vendors, so we're sort of waiting to see what happens. Next Wednesday is an opportunity for any potential responder to the RFP to come and ask questions. And we had a meeting, this is Thursday, we had a meeting Tuesday and learned that just because nobody comes and asks a question doesn't mean that nobody's going to bid. And then the bids have to be in by 9 a.m. on the 16th of September. And then we'll see what happens. We get a bid.
What are the bids for?
For an energy expert to develop the long-range plan for taking the township to 100% affordable, renewable energy. In the meantime, we're tabling at the block party on Highland Avenue this Saturday. And I made a great contact with the guy who's head of the home energy audits for PECO, and he was thrilled to come and table with us. So depending on that goes, there's a good possibility he will table with us on the 15th of September at the Radnor Fall Festival.
Right? Is that Steve Clark or somebody else?
No, his name is Michael Schneller from PECO. He's in charge of the home energy audits. And if we can get sufficient, and don't ask me to define sufficient, but if we can get sufficient people to sign up who want an energy audit this Saturday, they'll bring the fee down from $25 to about $5.
Great.
So we want to hit that neighborhood, and he knows all about heat and all the lower income qualifications, because I don't know whether you know, there is a housing development on Highland Avenue. Mr. Rosengarten of Chanticleer built it, and it was redone several years ago. And we don't want this to just be a movement for rich folks. We want for everybody. So we're going to be there Saturday.
Great.
So it's coming. We just don't know whether anybody's going to bid.
Right.
And then if they don't bid, then what do we do? And of course,
Extend the deadline.
then we have to go and ask the board for money to pay for the energy expert. So
Seems like a good step in the right direction.
we're continuing to move along. And your suggestion of Mark Muller was wonderful.
Good. He's a good guy.
He's a really good guy, and
Very
he's
knowledgeable.
been through this process before.
Okay.
So he was able to quash a lot of the questions.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. I'll reach out to Mark and congratulate him. Thank you for the update. Anything else on Green Team? Okay. Single-use plastics ordinance. Last time we talked about the fact that we're now blocked from doing these things by a bill that was passed in Harrisburg a few weeks ago. And Sarah, I think you had the suggestion that we could follow the suit of, I think it was Lower Merion.
No, Westchester.
Well, it was Westchester, I'm sorry, who went ahead and passed an ordinance anyway. Given the political process in our community, who knows whether it would be successful or not, but I think It's certainly been a good opportunity to have some discussion around this stuff.
So-
Um,
And I think we can incentivize people to begin to give up. Let's just talk about the plastic bags at the supermarkets. If we could somehow encourage people to think about something else. I was with Ruth Mooney, who's on the Green Team, has just been in Scotland, and Scotland has banned all single-use bags. They have a slightly heavier bag for 5 pence that you can buy. And she said it just was never a problem. So maybe there's a way, and again, when I go to Giant, often, because I carry all my own bags, often somebody will say, I wish they would change these roundabouts because there's not enough room to put your own bag. And I've had several of them tell me that at least 50% of the people that they check out are bringing their own bags. So I think it's gathering.
Right. I did have a question, because I know that the state blocked municipalities from doing these laws.
For a year.
Is it only against plastic bags? Is it against straws? Is it against other plastics, stuff like that?
Plastic bags.
Is that
It's
right?
just
I
plastic.
thought straws were implicated. I was mistaken about that, so.
So we could still
there is still
proceed
some
with
leeway there.
something else,
Right,
just to sort of get the ball moving and.
right.
You know, I mean, at some point, some of this is it's as important for what it, for the coverage and what it says to people to
Correct.
keep it in their consciousness,
I think that's right.
you know, as it is the actual impact.
Well, and to your point, it's only for a year. It may take a year to pass the darn thing, so there's no reason to not talk about it.
Right.
So it's with the board now. I don't know if they, I know it was on the agenda for last time. I don't know if they actually had that discussion, probably didn't get to it. So we'll keep our ears open, and I guess that's it for now, till we get some feedback. Grant programs, we talked last time about brainstorming a little bit and thinking about if we had some money from an educational grant, an environmental grant, what would we do with it? And I'll admit, I haven't had a lot of great ideas. I don't know if you guys have thought about this any further. If anybody's had a flash of inspiration about what we could do with a little bit of money.
These are educational grants?
Could be any kind of grant, and I think what we would sort of, what we would do with it kind of conditions to some extent what we would go after.
Weren't we looking into the grants for the
Yeah,
electrified buses or the converting them to
We were. I found the technical stuff on that a little bit overwhelming. I never pursued it any further, but that's an opportunity.
Well, I had looked into that educational grant, you know, for this upcoming Pumpkin Patch Festival. And we missed the deadline. I mean, the grant just gave the most recent grant in July, and I think the new cycle doesn't start of accepting grant applications till November.
November sounds about right. Yep.
So I think we should definitely apply, and, I mean, I'd like to see some of it go towards, you know, education, particularly, you know, similar to this pumpkin patch and some kind of public forum type thing, where we could have, you know, brochures or, you know, something just to make people aware of certain situations, you know, like about recycling and so forth. It's always a nice idea to target kids too, because, you know, the kids tell the parents. But I really do think that if we applied for an education-focused grant, we could certainly use it in some type of, you know, public forum. I think we should also have, we've talked about this before, like a sign or a banner, our group. People should know. I mean, I'm sure the majority of people in Radnor Township don't even know about this group.
Have you considered going to Bob and saying we should have a banner?
No, we haven't talked about it.
The
I think
township
it's-
has bought a banner for the Green Team. There was
Yeah.
never any question, yes, we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Whether we get it
That's
by
another
this-
option, and I think that's a really good reason to have this discussion, is sort of, if we can develop a wish list, maybe some of those things the township would just write us a check for. I don't think.
Right. Yeah, I
smaller
mean, we
things in
should have a
particular.
banner. You know, of course, I'm offering my daughter services, but she's a graphic designer. She
Mm-hmm.
could design it, and then just, if we get money for the materials.
But
Great.
you may not even need the money for the materials. One of our students from the high school, Becca Zajac, designed the banner. If EAC had something, it would be on it, but you don't, so it doesn't. And Bob said, fine, we'll take care of it.
Okay.
And we haven't had to get in, we haven't gotten into it.
So we just
except
hand it to them and say, please do this?
First she got requested,
And
and
who
with the
who
township,
should I direct this to if? I
Bob
mean,
Zinkowski, he's the manager.
Okay.
Are you talking about a banner for the
Yeah,
for the
we
fall
should
festival?
minimally have that. I mean, it'd be nice to have for our pumpkin patch thing, but,
Are you gonna do the pumpkin patch with
Yeah.
3,000 to 5,000 people there?
you don't, you think that, I mean, I did reserve a table, doesn't mean we have to do it.
No.
But,
Well,
and,
but I heard you say you had a lot of hands-on. I don't know whether you're
no,
gonna
we've,
get,
Emily and I
the
talked about
hands-on.
this. So far, the one thing I know I'll have is, and I'll do this in the township, and I'm sure they have a copier. It's just some coloring pages for the kids to hand out. Just handouts. The interactive thing is not gonna work.
no, not with 3,000 to 5,000 people.
No. And, I mean, if you don't think it's a good idea, I mean. you
No,
don't have
I
to do
think I was concerned about trying to do the interactive
No,
with
that's not a
50
good idea.
tattoos when you've got
Yeah.
3,000 to 5,000 people there and they're really focused on the pumpkins. What I
Right.
heard, I think it was Tammy say, they're going to add, for anybody who wants a pumpkin, they're gonna have to show their driver's license that they're a Radnor resident.
Oh,
When is this pumpkin patch?
It's the
Okay.
4th
Beginning
of
of
October,
October,
something
yeah.
like that.
So what if instead of an interactive kind of thing, what if we had a display that showed people properly what's supposed to go into recycling and what is not
well,
supposed to
that
go into
is
recycling?
great to have a
Because
display.
people are so clueless.
Well,
But
do you
that
know
costs
that the
money, too.
Radnor Conservancy and the League of Women Voters are working like crazy on it?
Yeah,
But part of the issue is there's no market
right,
for the
right,
recyclables.
right,
Not only are they doing it wrong,
right.
there's no market for the recyclers,
So
so
it's sort of a
there's,
moot point.
well, there's
Well,
this tension and
it's
it's
true.
all
It-
being burned.
Right, it's,
Yeah.
it's true with plastics, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean,
Yes.
there's still a market for for metal and glass.
No glass,
No?
Yeah, the
No
glass
glass.
is stopped.
The glass has stopped too?
yes.
Wow. I thought glass was like the easiest. You just
No,
melt it down.
because they're collected in big trucks.
Right,
And guess what? It's broken before it gets to the end of the line, and there is literally no market for broken glass.
really? 'Cause-
Aluminum and tin cans,
Right,
if they're clean.
right, right.
So you have to educate someone that when you empty the beans, you gotta wash out the can and preferably take the label off.
Right.
I mean, they're getting really,
Well, you know, when I was a child, I'm older than all of you.
not.
Not, but anyway, remember when we were kids, you used to just return the bottles. That
Oh,
was like
yes. We
the
had- you
ultimate
got 10
recycling, because you
cents.
reuse
Right,
it.
right.
Yeah, you got cash.
And you
on the
got,
ground.
yeah, you got like a penny or
Maine's,
two.
Maine
for
and
it.
Massachusetts still do it.
Yeah, I know.
It's Pennsylvania because
don't-
we
I
have
guess-
bottling plants here and they don't
Yeah.
want to redo the bottles.
Yeah.
So this is a topic that comes up over and over and over again, and I agree with you. I think that, collaborating with the Conservancy, with the League, with anybody else who's on this, would be a great idea. I don't know how to bring this all together. I don't know what the solution is, but I think
The
this
league is doing something about I don't know whether I kept it on my phone, in November after the election.
But if we're gonna have a table, how easy to put a little diorama next to it that shows like, live versions of this stuff and says, this is how to do
I'll
it.
bring in my recycling can.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's that simple. Like,
Yeah.
These things have little red X's taped on them, and these
Yeah.
things don't.
Here's a greasy pizza box, throw it away.
Don't waste your time,
Yeah, don't waste your time,
because all it's doing is contaminating the waste stream.
right?
Right.
Let me see if I can find this email. Roberta sent it out
I mean,
this
if we
week.
simply had our table as an informational table, just with a couple of posters up, is that sufficient for, I mean, is that, hand-drawn posters, is that something that's, are you thinking that's
The
not the
hand-drawn,
representative? of-
yeah, I don't know.
No. Not
Unless,
even as simple
you
as-
know, like originally, my original thought was to have kids have a poster contest, but that's too much.
But you could have kids involved in presenting or doing, so you could have high school kids help to build the display or do something that's, it wouldn't be interactive with 3,000
Right.
people, more of a, kind of
Information.
an
There's a
information
little
thing,
reminder.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what the league has
Yeah, but if you
arranged through a grant from the Heinz Foundation, through the Pittsburgh League of Women Voters. Lisa Ann Hamilton is the director of the Climate and Energy Program for the Center for International Environmental Law. She leads a global team of attorneys to advance climate finance, mitigation, and adaptation strides through the U.S. and international law. Among her proudest accomplishments is as lead author of the recently released Plastic and Climate Report that highlights the sources of greenhouse gases at each stage of the plastic production life cycle. The report draws upon her commitment to use research and legal analysis to advance environmental and climate policy for global sustainability. So the topic is to be plastics, impact on climate change, pollution, and health. Date is November 7th, 7 o'clock, Radnor Township Building.
So if I could paraphrase, that's really cool. They're using grant money to bring in an expert speaker and put on
An educational
educational forum,
on
right.
plastics.
right, which is the other kind of idea you were talking about, Margie, before. And I think if we could list out all of those things and think about, besides beyond the fall festival, how do we reach out on a regular basis to the community, right? What do we want to do in terms of festivals and do we want to have a summit here of some sort? Do we want to put on a speaker series or something?
Right, well, my original thought would be to have an environmental festival, which would take a lot of planning. But, to have invite companies to display that, and so forth, but that would be, that would be a big undertaking.
Major undertaking.
And have,
Well, Penn
But Earth Day is
Penn
no longer-
Environment does that often. There was just one at Penn State Brandywine campus.
Is there
It's
one
all
at
an
Villanova?
environmental summit.
yeah,
Is
I
there
mean,
one at Villanova we could piggyback on? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd hate to try to do this on our own without
Yeah.
collaborating, because.
I think you should do a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new organizer, her name is Emma Fisher, who just started with Penn Environment in Delaware County. Lovely young woman, looking for ways to educate and bring people together. I had coffee with her or something yesterday. She's a very, very nice young woman, moved here from the Midwest.
Great.
So we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
I think these are great ideas.
But
and-
I wonder if the thing on November 7th, if you don't want to have a tabling or a display out in the lobby. And I think probably Ready for 100 would do the same thing and have something with information on climate change and the energy audits. That would have to go through Roberta because she's in charge of that event. Although I know she wants to work with Liesel Schwartz from Villanova, and they're talking about Cabrini and Eastern at the same time, because apparently this woman is really good.
Mhm. Okay.
So maybe connect with Roberta and say, what could we do outside the room?
Could you tell me that date again? I'm sorry, I didn't write it down.
November 7th
November 7th, and
at 7 o'clock here.
so we've got plenty of time to
Pull it
talk
together.
about that and pull something together. So that, the Fall Festival, maybe we do something for Earth Day. I don't know if anybody's doing an Earth Day thing, the township isn't, we learned.
I have no idea.
But the schools sometimes do something. There may be an opportunity to go, you know, if we can get our dog and pony show together and just kind of, you know, tag team and bring the poster and set up a little booth and give people the demonstration. I don't know, I'm just kind of,
Right, and I
Think
mean,
out
if,
loud.
depending on what the grant is, I guess we could even do a mailing, I don't know. Yeah,
Well, again, and I don't mean to keep speaking up, but we now have Molly Gallagher, who's our information officer, and she's on WhatsApp, Twitter, and Facebook, and she's just putting the stuff out there.
why don't, that's a really good idea. Why don't we reach out to Molly?
To Molly.
And say, hey, you know, these kinds of things, recycling has come up over and over again. Plastics, very hot topic. I don't know if there are others, maybe energy efficiency, maybe we kind of take up the green team mantle and say, hey, you know, we're the EAC, we need better ways to reach out. Can you help us think about how to make this happen? And if we want to go after some grant money, what are the priorities that we
She's
could-
got great resources.
okay.
She did a great
that make
video with
sense?
one of the young
Pardon?
Does that make
policemen
sense?
this week. She's doing a really good job. And I'm trying to educate some of my more recalcitrant friends that it wouldn't be a terrible thing to go on Facebook. 'Cause you don't have to get eaten up by it, you can lurk in lots of
I'm about
places.
ready to kill
I'm
my
against
Facebook account. I'm
Facebook.
about ready to leave it.
Well, you know, it depends what you do with it. I'm tired of you-know-who.
Mhm.
So I'm going through it really quickly these days.
Yeah.
But
All right, so next steps on this, thank you both for continuing to kind of
Yeah.
move this along. I've got, reach out to Roberta, reach out to Molly Gallagher, I'd be happy to take those on unless somebody else wants to do that. What else can we do to help bring this together? I'm worried that November will come and go very quickly, so if we want to apply for a grant, we really need to start focusing in, right?
yeah, I know.
And the cycle goes every year, so if we miss one, that's fine, we can
Well,
always hit it again.
I've always found that for something like this, it always works best for someone, and I had offered to work on this grant, just to do it and then bring it to the group, and then we change it.
Yeah,
You know, because if you start with nothing, then it's really hard to come up with something.
that's true, right.
Well, and Melissa Kahn is very good at writing grants. She works for the township. That's her job. But I would have a conversation with Bob and say, we're a subcommittee of the township. What resources could the township offer to support us? I mean, they're doing all the copying for the green team. No problem at all. So I think you've not tapped into some resources that could be available for you without having to go through the long and lengthy and difficult process of writing a grant.
Couldn't agree more, right. Okay. Thank you. No skip today, so no liaison report. Oh, I'm sorry, Sustainable Pennsylvania. I don't think there's anything going on here, at least not that I'm aware of. So we can just skip that one for this time unless you guys have anything to add. Any old business? Any new business?
So circling back to this recycling issue, because I have an issue with this. I mean, I've actually multiple issues with this. One is, and I recognize that we're not in a position to do this, but if so much of this stuff is getting landfilled or burned anyway, why? And as far as I'm aware, at the moment, recycling actually costs the township more money than regular trash pickup.
Do you know what trash pickup is right now? $76 a ton.
Right. And recycling is more.
No, it's not. It's a
Oh,
little
it's
less.
still a little bit less?
But the township.
For a while, it inverted.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Because it no longer, the trash doesn't go to the landfill. The trash goes down to the transfer station, which is down Delaware County. And it's all going to the Covanta plant in Chester and Mistingborough.
okay. All of it?
All of the trash.
All, the trash or the recycling?
The trash.
Oh,
The landfill in Berks County is closed.
gotcha. Okay.
And I have asked, where's the recycling go? And I have gotten silence.
Who are you asking? Someone in the township or?
I asked both the township and I asked Laura Lugar, who is the Radnor Conservancy, who's the one that, they're
Gotcha.
handling this. No response.
So if recycling is currently cheaper than trash, which is, I guess, a good thing, the only way, we would be able to drive the recycling costs down further if we could actually clean up the waste stream, right?
Yep.
So the waste is picked up by Republic, right?
Picked up by the township.
Oh, it is picked up by the township and then transferred to them.
Transferred to Republican King of Prussia.
So then the second issue, which I do have a problem with, and I've mentioned before, is why do we continue to pick up improperly left out recycling instead of just leaving it at people's curbs? If they put it out in a bag, leave it. Like, I don't understand why the township has no,
They tried it,
yeah,
and they got 110 angry phone calls the first day.
yeah,
But it was beyond what the staff could really handle.
right. So
It's-
it was too hard.
It was too hard.
Yeah, that's a terrible.
There's an attitude in Radnor that, this is my right, it's not a privilege.
Right.
This is my right. So I was telling Matt, I really think about this. I'm working very hard to get my trash and my recycling down. So I'm coming home from, I must have been in Chestnut Hill or someplace, and I ended up on North Lowry's Lane because I live in Garrett Hill. And there for the trash, for one house, were 4 trash cans, 2 boxes each, had to have been each a cubic yard, and an overstuffed chair.
Right.
In Lower Marion, they changed it, and I can't find out whether they're still doing it or not. You got your first trash can for free, and it was of a certain size.
Sure.
Which was big enough for trash, but not so big that the trash man would have a herniated disc. And then you paid for each additional trash cans, up to 4,
Right.
period.
So who in Radnor Township is actually in charge of these decisions and the decision to give up because one day they got a lot of phone
Board
calls?
of Commissioners.
That's not a township manager's thing?
He tries, but ultimately he goes to the Board of Commissioners. You should start coming to Board of Commissioners meetings and
Okay.
begin to understand some of this.
Yeah. Because it's, you set a rule that this is how you recycle, this is what you can recycle. And when people don't abide by it, we just pick it up anyway, which makes our waste stream wrong, which costs everybody in the township more money. It's
It's crazy.
ridiculous.
It's crazy.
silly.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Right.
And it's a figure I saw, and I can't give you the parameters of it, but I think it's in 2019. The trash so far has cost $246,000. And that comes out of the general fund.
Right.
Not out of the sewer fund. And Bill White says something has to be done, and Bob says something has to be done. Now, we've done it before. I don't know how long you've lived in Radnor.
18 years.
Okay, so do you remember backyard pickups?
No. Well, I remember it was
Where
offered
the-
as a service.
where
But you had to pay for it.
No, but before, it was part of your thing, and the trucks would back up
Oh my
every
God.
driveway. There was a driveway
Yeah.
to carry, so that you could pick up the trash cans at the garage, because it would be unattractive if they were on the sidewalk.
That's complete insanity.
So they cut it off, and you've never heard so much who shot. Well, what are the little old women gonna do? How are they gonna get their trash to the street? And then they took it back a step, and you could pay.
Right.
And I asked Bill last week how many people were still doing that, and what I heard him say was, how many people are paying and how many people are not paying? Radnor doesn't do this very well.
Right.
And there's no excuse.
Right. Do you know when the next Board of Commissioners meeting? Isn't it like, is it every week?
No, it'll be the second Monday in September. It's the second and fourth Monday in September, unless it's Thanksgiving, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Election Day. I mean, it shifts, but it's well worth coming or watching.
Yeah, they're all archived if you
They're
want to
all
look at the videos.
archived.
They're very entertaining.
They are
You
very
can put them on
interesting.
triple
What
speed
time?
and not miss anything.
I don't know, the one I was at, when
6:30.
the other month wasn't very entertaining.
It's very contentious.
They can be rancorous.
Yeah.
This last one was after that Wednesday's rainstorm,
Oh, that would have been fun.
when the township is used to North Wayne, Willow Avenue having storm issues. But this one hit Darby Creek, went down into Havertown, and couple came in. They live below a dam I'd never heard of that's in an HOA and below Earl's Lake. And they live on a converted barn that was built in 1796, and they're very concerned that the foundation may have washed away. What was the township going to do about it?
We had something in my homeowners association as well. Someone lived near a berm and it wasn't built to handle that much water, and they were complaining because it was washing into someone else's yard, and it's like,
Yeah.
what was the HOA gonna do about it? We were like, nothing. It's kind of your problem.
I felt very sorry for this couple,
Yeah.
because they brought in a video, and I mean, it was not a fast-flowing stream, it was a torrent.
Yeah. I imagine that was a lot of complaining.
So just real quick, just to get back to the idea of, all the things that we could help educate the public about. I've got a short list going: recycling, plastics, ready for 100 and energy efficiency, stormwater. We've talked about pesticides in the past. That's not one that often comes up, but, there's a whole list of things, but I think these are kind of the top, these are the ones that keep coming up over and over again. I have to think there's something we can do to educate people so that they're doing the recycling right? I understand people are stubborn, I get it, but many people just don't know what to do, even now, and I think the flyers that have gone out have been effective. But maybe social media, maybe other ways of getting the word out would be smart.
I mean, education's one component, and it's an important one, and the people who follow these, these things on social media tend to be the ones who are actively paying attention.
Fair enough.
But without a consequence, you're not gonna get compliance. You'll get compliance from
Don't disagree.
us, but you're not gonna get
And
compliance.
here's how you get the compliance.
Right.
Well, the Radnor News sends out like little newsletters, maybe we could have a little column or something in that.
Mhm.
That would be a possibility, because people that aren't on social media might read the Radnor News.
Do you mean the shiny magazines that we get? They're not put out by Radnor. The Radnor News, that
Yeah.
is not put out by Radnor.
Oh,
It's put out by a for-profit about Radnor. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get an article in it.
yeah.
They gave up doing their own. And the piece of the pesticides that I think may bring it around again
Mm-hmm,
is, what are they using against the spotted lanternfly?
mm-hmm.
They're saying it won't hurt animals or birds, but do we really know that?
Are they spraying?
They're spraying.
Oh, well, who's they, the township?
No, the county.
Oh. Do they notify the residents when
This
they
is
spray?
all brand new because spotted lanternfly is brand new,
And they're everywhere.
and they are everywhere.
I know, my back door.
Yeah, now, I don't happen to have them in my yard yet, but the Willows Park is just full of them. At our community garden, we tore out all the grapes, dug them out, because it's one of the ailanthus, the tree of heaven, they love, They primarily, and they like grapes and they like raspberries. I mean, they are really worried. But I would like to know what is the component they are spraying. Because, you know, for years it was, oh, Roundup's not a problem, glyphosate not a problem, we can spray. But it took people finding out and saying, and complaining that got them. And I understand there's a balance here between the lanternfly and what you're gonna do to kill it.
Right.
But it's a problem, and with climate change, it's gonna get worse.
It's interesting that a few years ago, I lived across from a park, and I saw them spraying something on the baseball diamond, the dirt part. And they also spray stuff like around poles and things. And I had written in an email asking what that is, and I did not get a very straight answer. They came back and said it's just a cinnamon-type spray.
That's exactly what the township converted to.
But that's not an herbicide, that's a pesticide, but that doesn't kill grass.
Well, but
So I
I
don't
do
think it
know
was true.
glyphosate is out, and then they were using citrus oil, and it got too expensive.
But that's all
So they switched
pesticides.
to cinnamon.
Yeah, cinnamon's
they're
not
using-
going to kill grass.
Well, they were using it as an herbicide.
Well,
They
That's
were
that's
spraying,
scientifically not
they were
possible.
spraying today around the trees at Enki Park.
And why doesn't it smell like cinnamon?
I don't know, because I don't get close enough.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Because I was
cover-up.
concerned, because, people from the apartments by the park, they bring their kids, and the kids sit there and play in the dirt.
Which
and,
park is this?
You'd think I'd know the name, right? I live on Clover Lane, the one across from Clover Lane, South Devon Avenue,
Oh.
Clover Lane. Anyway, they have two
Yeah,
baseball
Clement
diamonds.
Clemson. Garrett, no, Gun,
No,
it's,
Yes,
Warren
yeah,
Philippone.
That's it.
Yeah. So I don't know if we get straight answers or not.
honest answers.
All right, well,
Well,
lots
we
to think
could,
about.
we could meet every day
We
for a
could.
year.
Mhm. Well, and I can't help thinking, I don't want to get spread too thin here. I think we're right to focus on a few things at a time and try to make some progress. Anything else new? No public comment, obviously, because there's no one here, shockingly. I think we're done, unless there's anything else. All right, thanks, everybody. We are adjourned.